I am all in favour of free speech, but I do not endorse outright character assassination and cyber harassment. When I joined YouTube, I made a vow that I would never flag anyone's videos for whatever reason, no matter how dishonest or offensive they are. However, just as the non-suicidal have their limits, so do I. YouTube user Kalel Jordan Kent, or just KJK for short, has frequently stolen pictures and videos of moonhoax conspiracy theorists and doctored them to harass these individuals. He is also fond of cherry-picking selective quotes from his opponents, which he can then use as part of his cyberbullying. As a prominent member of the moonhoax conspiracy movement, I typically find myself in his crosshairs. Because his videos are typically just making fun of individuals, I just choose to ignore them. However, he quickly went from tolerable annoyance to outright disgusting and offensive. Finally, action needed to be taken. I reported his videos. Now I am sure there are individuals out there, including KJK, who will try to allege that I got his films removed because he supposedly disproved my claims. Nonsense. Take a look around. I have opponents on YouTube. AstroBrant2, Luke Coyote San Jose, and Phil Webb are the most prominent. All three of them have stolen my footage at least 20 times. If I was trying to silence counter-arguments, I would have shut these guys down long ago. AstroBrant2 is well known for his immensely hateful attitude against anyone who disagrees with him, and Coyote has been known to look for any trivial detail he can use to try and falsely undermine an opponent's credibility. But in the midst of all their cheap shots, both of them voice a spurious message that at times warrants a response. Same case with Phil Webb, although he at least seems to somewhat hold back on the cheap shots. KJK on the other hand has constantly and maliciously stolen his opponent's material and manipulated it for humiliation purposes. Granted, other individuals such as Blister Hiker, Rob260259, and Andy120290 Returns do that too, but they all fall in the category of tolerable annoyance. KJK was outright provocative. Let's have a look at his list of offences, namely, jumping on the bandwagon of stealing my C-130 video and completely blowing its content out of context, stealing the funeral video of me scattering a friend's ashes into the sea and calling those ashes dirt, on 3 separate occasions, stealing my photograph while simultaneously comparing my math skills to those of a Lou Costello character, maliciously misrepresenting the events of an unfortunate case of mistaken identity on my part, which has long since been corrected, and in virtually all his videos in which he mentions me, compositing my face onto the bodies of Jawas from Star Wars.
Bill! Bill, you have to be the stupidest man on the planet to think this is a good idea! Look at you! You're part of a 12-headed jackass! This is the feces that is produced when shame eats too much stupidity!
The brainless scarecrow from Wizard of Oz, Jabba the Hutt, the Fool Tarot card, even a vagina. Yes, a vagina. I am dead serious. There is nothing funny about that. It is just plain sick. Just to prove that my flagging of KJK's productions have nothing to do with trying to censor my opponent's responses, let's have a look at his 4 unique points. In one of his videos, KJK responds to the fake Gemini 10 spacewalk photo by flashing this page from Michael Collins' Carrying the Fire and highlighting this portion. There were no photos of my spacewalk. This is obviously a quote mine, because he failed to show the continuation of Collins' writings. I was really feeling sorry for myself, unable to provide graphic documentation for my grandchildren of my brief sally as a human satellite, when I discovered among my mail something that restored my perspective. It was an account by Captain J.C. Fremont of the Topographical Engineers to the Senate, describing his trips to Oregon and Northern California in 1843 to 1844. Unhappily, much of what we had collected was lost by accidents of serious import to ourselves, as well as to our animals and collections. In the gorges and ridges of Sierra Nevada of the Alta California, we lost 14 horses and mules, falling from rocks or precipices into the chasms or rivers, bottomless to us and to them, and one of them loaded with bales of plants collected on a line of 2,000 miles of travel. And, when almost home, our camp on the banks of Kansas was deluged by the Great Flood which, lower down, spread terror and desolation on the borders of Missouri and Mississippi, and by which great damage was done to our remaining perishable specimens, all wet and saturated with water, and which we had no time to dry. Whoever sent me that account, thank you. What is one camera lost in the bottomless chasm compared to 14 horses and mules, one loaded with 2,000 miles worth of meticulous collecting? Note Collins's words. What's one camera lost in the bottomless chasm? Clearly, he's not talking about photos of himself spacewalking, he's talking about photos he supposedly took whilst spacewalking. Earlier in the book, Collins talks at great and lengthy detail of how he supposedly lost his 70mm camera during his spacewalk. The camera Collins allegedly lost during his EVA was identical to this one seen carried by Edward White. So again, Collins is not claiming that there are no photos of himself spacewalking, all he's saying is that the photos he took while spacewalking are lost in space. How pathetic can your position be when you need to quote mine the astronauts you are trying to defend? I had every intention of replying to this video when it was first released, but Dr. Stephen Rourke had it pulled for copyright infringement before production could start. KJK had posted a link to a PDF of Renee's entire moonbook. I'm all in favour of getting Renee's message out, but what KJK did was outright piracy. The inner cover explicitly states, "Copyright 1992 R. Renee, all rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced in any form by any electrical or mechanical means, including information storage and retrieval systems, without permission in writing from the publisher, except by a reviewer who may quote brief passages in review and by authors using direct quotes and crediting the source." KJK's second major complaint regards the Sea Rock photo, in which he steals this reenactment from my video on this subject.
In fact, I didn't find the Sea Rock book, he did.
Who did?
My buddy's daughters, yeah, after I put the book out.
Oh, yeah?
She got a copy of the book and she come running back to me. And she used to call me. Oh, I forgot. She had a pet name for me. And, anyway, she showed it to me and said, "Oh, Jesus Christ, look at that, what I missed."
What are you saying?
In fact, I didn't find the Sea Rock book, he did.
Who did?
My buddy's daughters, yeah, after I put the book out.
Oh, yeah?
She got a copy of the book and she come running back to me. And she used to call me. Oh, I forgot. She had a pet name for me. And, anyway, she showed it to me and said, "Oh, Jesus Christ, look at that, what I missed."
As if it takes a rocket genius to work that out. The original release of NASA Mooned America did contain the Sea Rock photo, but it made no mention of the Sea Rock. It only discussed various other anomalies in the photos, such as the clear distinct boot prints in deep soil. Pookie received a copy of the original print, and after noticing the sea on the rock, brought it to Renee's attention. He subsequently made mention of it in all future editions of his book. It even says on his website, "The new edition has a few appendixes added, and it has many minor changes since its first printing in 1992. Thirdly, KJK seems very fond of alleging that I call my opponents propagandists. The word I use is propagandists. Admittedly, I am known to talk a little fast, and sometimes the D in propagandist doesn't come out very clear, especially in mid-sentence or when speaking in plurals. I honestly didn't even notice this unfortunate speech impediment until KJK and Astro Brand 2 began hyping over it last year. When you need to attack someone over a minor mispronunciation, and repeatedly at that, it just goes to show how weak your position must be. His final major point is flogging my Cornholio impression. He seems to think this is a reflection of my typical behaviour or something. In actuality, My impression of the Great Cornholio is just an old stage act that I did alongside Paul Fennick, Tahir Bilgic, Rob Shahady, Wazim Kahan, and the rest of the Fat Pizza cast during their live stage shows at the Enmore Theatre in Sydney. Yes, Fat Pizza is a popular TV and theatre production in Australia. That's what the t-shirt is all about. That's all that warrants my attention from KJK. As I said in the beginning, KJK was being outright provocative. The worst I've ever treated my opponents is comparing them to the Niku men from Rama 1/2, whereas KJK likes to Photoshop his opponents' faces onto female reproductive organs. I'd be interested to know just how many of you viewers also condemn these actions by KJK. If you feel my reporting of his cyberbullying was justified, kindly give this video a thumbs up. Or, if you think it was wrong of me to report him, kindly give this video a thumbs down. And please, no sock puppet votes if you don't mind.